Hello? Oh, I told y'all we were taking a break until September. Oh, fine. For y'all, I have season 2, episode 2 queued up right now. And this one was inspired by the infamous Reesa Teesa. Who the F Did I Marry? Y'all remember that one? Woo, child. Yes. Let's get into it. Woo. Welcome to the Pretty Purposeful podcast. I am your host, Angee Gonzalez. Oops. Welcome to the Pretty Purposeful podcast. I'm your host, Angie Melange.
I'm your co-host, Candace Mabry.
Thank you all for joining us. And for those of you who have been following us, who have been tuning in, you may have noticed I just introduced myself as Angie Melange. Professionally, I've always used my real last name, which is Gonzalez. But in recent years, I've decided, it's better to take on a stage name that truly, represents who I am holistically. And I find that the word melange, which means mixed or medley, definitely describes your girl. I'm absolutely a mixed chick, but more than just that, my racial identity, I have a multitude of different talents, and so I just think it is so fitting. So going forward, it's your girl Angee Melange.
Yes. I love it. I love the name Melange. I think it represents you truly and fully and completely, and I think you own it very well. So I'm excited.
Thank you. Me too. It's gonna take me a little bit to get used to it, y'all. I might slip up here and there and call myself Angee Gonzalez, but Angee Melange is the public name. All right. So what's been up with you, Candace?
Ooh, Angie, girl, I've been doing pretty well. I'm so happy to be here. I know our first episode went very well. Still traveling like crazy. So y'all, I travel a lot with my current job. When I say it feels like I've been traveling 24/7, I literally support 14 different states. So this past couple of weeks, I've been in Florida. I've been on the roll. Things are going to slow down because I need things to slow down a lot so that I can just take a breather for myself, because if you could quickly just lose balance. Absolutely. Right? Quickly. So I'm going to slow down.
Yes. I'm going to hold her to that, y'all.
Please do.
Absolutely. Yes.
But other than that, things have been going pretty well, Angie. I'm super excited to be here.
I know. Episode 2. We are so excited, y'all. We have so much in store for you all this season. And with that being said, we're going to talk about this topic of who the F am I dealing with? Y'all, there's just been so much in the media lately. I know you guys are all familiar with Reesa Teesa. Shout out to her for her vulnerability and transparency and her courageousness. Like, she was just so brave to share that. And, I know some people believe in, keeping things private. A lot of us grew up being told, what happens in the house stays in the house and things like that. And so we're seeing more often people are starting to share. But we wanted to talk about, how, just getting to know who you're really interacting with on every level in life, just different areas. But Reesa Teesa came to mind when I thought about this, you know, and then not only Reesa Teesa, but Portia Williams and her husband are currently separated. And, you know, allegedly he's not as financially well off as, you know, the public image portrays. Now, we're not here to gossip, but we're just stating what's been mentioned and, you know, what has inspired this topic, because I think it's just so important that we really consider, you know, who we're actually dealing with and how well we know people before we let them into our spaces.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this topic. So I mentioned vulnerability. So, yeah, as I was saying, you know, Reesa Teesa, she touched on like growing up being told, you know, to keep things in the house. And, you know, because some things, you know, when you reveal them, it can come with some shame, you know, some embarrassment, things of that sort. So, like, how do you feel about that? Like, what's been your experience with, I guess, we'll start, because we're talking about vulnerability. Let's start there. How have you approached vulnerability when it comes to outside spaces, like friend circles? And
so being vulnerable is definitely a sensitive thing, especially when you're coming in circles that you're not familiar with. I think it's definitely worth doing if you feel safe, right? And that's something that we always talk about when it comes to me and you. Right from the start that we met each other, we already felt the safeness within just our conversations, right? There was no judgment. There was no, it clearly said there was no judgment at all. It completely felt safe when we first met. So when it comes to being vulnerable, especially when you're dealing with some relationship issues, that's when it really gets sticky, because here's the thing. When it becomes very toxic, like if it's toxic, especially physically, I really think it's important to talk to somebody that at least you trust, right? But being vulnerable, people have to earn it, in my opinion. Some people are like, yes, I start off trusting everybody and anybody I meet. And then some people are like, nope, I'm keeping to myself, everything to myself. And that could be very isolating, because it's like, how are you going to open up to anybody? But being vulnerable, I really do truly believe that it's the key to connecting. If I know you've read Brene Brown's books, and she talks about this as well. But when you're being vulnerable, you're basically having courage. Right?
Very much.
A lot of courage. So I think it's worth it. And I hope I answered your question. Look, I feel like
No,
going on a ramble.
No, that's really good. And I mean, you had touched on like relationships. I know you talked about like the physical type of abuse. If someone, you know, is going through that, it's best to tell someone, you know, a trusted source. But what about like emotional abuse? And I mean, we hear about narcissism and gaslighting and people living double lives. In those situations where, like with Reesa Teesa, that was a very embarrassing type of situation. And she gave a disclaimer from the door and said, look, there's going to be some parts in here where, you know, I'm not going to look the greatest, but it's not about that. Like, she had her goal, her intention was to share the story, to, you know, be a voice for somebody else who might be actually going through it and hasn't found the courage to speak out. Right? She just really opened up, I don't want to say Pandora's box, but she really, her boldness and bravery, I'm pretty sure, has helped so many women to just look at themselves in the mirror and be like, you know what? I am Reesa Teesa. And if she can get away, if she can, you know, so can I, you know? Ooh. So how do you, like, even like not to put her business out there, you all, but Miss Candace is recently single. And so navigating that space, tell us like how that has been, because that can be very, especially when it's fresh. Yes,
no, and I'm happy you brought that up, because this is something that has been near and dear. and something that I'm actually still working through. So it's been 2 months since I guess we pretty much technically called it off. I've been in this particular relationship for 10 years, pretty much a decade.
That's a long time. Wow.
A whole decade. And I definitely saw myself in Reesa Teesa's story, not saying that the person I was dating did any of the things that Legion did, right? What I'm saying is I saw myself in Reesa Teesa and, okay, you know, when is it going to be my turn? You know, when I met my guy, my guy, when I met him, I did feel like, oh my gosh, I finally got a boyfriend, you know? And I just really think about it a lot, you know, why in the world, when someone approaches you and of course you're attracted to him, why is it that I just was like, oh my gosh, I'm attracted to him and he's attracted to me, so let me just fall so quickly. Like and don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, has great things about him, or else I wouldn't have been with him for so long, right? But I will say I did see myself in Reesa Teesa because I think that all throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, I never had a boyfriend or a relationship. So to get that status, I felt special.
You had your person.
I had my person. And I do, and I remember telling this particular person how I had low self-esteem in high school. And I gotta say this, that ladies, we have to be careful with having low self-esteem, because if you don't care enough about yourself, how in the world, and we talked on this in episode 1, but if you don't love on yourself or care about yourself or have some sort of good self-esteem, you will tolerate any and everything. And that's not okay. That's not okay. So I seen myself in Reesa Teesa. There were some things that occurred in the relationship that, I mean, many people might be like, girl, you stayed.
Trust me, I've been there.
And I ain't gonna say I'm Miss Perfect Patty, because I've definitely I have flaws as well. So yeah, to answer your question, girl, it's been a journey. I'm still learning.
You know, as long as like you have those individuals that you know that you, like you said, you feel comfortable and trust enough where you can talk about it when you need to, get some different perspective through that period. It's definitely, I don't know if Reesa Teesa had talked. I think she did say she had talked to her family before she like kind of went, because she was dealing with like depression, because it happened in like 2021, so it took her a few years to get to that point. So but just know I'm here for you, and you know we're gonna work it out. There's stages that you're gonna go through, you know, and but the part of being able to have those safe spaces to be able to go through those stages and have the support, genuine support, you know.
I do have a question for you, Angee. So exploring the balance between privacy and the need for like vulnerability in building genuine connections, how does sharing personal experiences impact your relationship? How has it been beneficial? Do you think it's really helped create a stronger bond when you're open and vulnerable, when you're really showing who you are?
I think it depends on who it is. And of course, it ultimately depends on your reason for wanting to share. Now, you know, you can share something with anybody to just get something off your chest. And I think in those moments, if you're not careful and, you know, you are not intentional about why you're sharing, well, then obviously you're in a moment of, you know, duress. You're not really thinking straight. And sometimes you may reveal information in those moments. And that's just something that we have to be aware of. Like, why am I sharing this information? Am I clear on why is it? Do I just need to vent? That's why there's therapists. That's why we have therapists. Because in those weak, vulnerable moments where we don't want the judgment, where we don't want the risk associated with our business being shared, and maybe we haven't really clearly defined our why behind sharing, because we're still in a healing phase, right?
Yes.
So I think that's when a therapist, maybe a spiritual advisor, a friend, like a real confidant, someone that may have gone through something that doesn't have anything to gain. But if you do know why you're sharing, let's say you made it through, just like Reesa Teesa, she made it through the situation. She worked on her healing.
Right.
She got very clear as to why she was sharing before she shared.
Right.
The impact that she had. It wasn't about exposing him. Like sometimes when we be in a moment, we hurt. Sometimes the initial share might be because we're hurt.
Right.
And we just want to, not necessarily throw that person under the bus, but really just tell somebody, like, can you believe this? Can you believe that this just happened?
Yes.
Because it's like you're in disbelief. You're like, so when you get clear on why you're sharing, I think that, yes, it can definitely strengthen bonds.
Mm.
I think that just like in ways that since I've known you, I've been able to share things with you. And my intention is like I don't care what you do with the information once it comes from me, because I know my intention is to give you a genuine perspective or insights onto what that looks like, how I got through it, and it's that the transparency.
Yes.
Because I do value our relationship. So for me, that's important. And then I'm like, big sis,
She really is.
I've got some experience, some gears, and I just feel that I've shared the same information with people that I love, other people that I love, and it's fallen upon deaf ears. Mm. Same information, same situation, but they weren't receptive. They weren't ready. Either they weren't ready to fully hear it for what it was really being shared for. Instead, they took it as tea. Unfortunately, they will try to leverage that in other situations because they feel like they have something on you. Not even realizing the whole time, I knew you was going to share.
Right.
I would have shared with them too, because
let's have a family reunion. Yeah. We can all talk about it.
Yeah, because at this point, I have healed from the situation.
Amen.
And I'm not sharing with you for your advice. I'm not sharing with you for your guidance. I'm sharing with you to encourage you, to help you, to give you a real life situation that I walked through, that I was able to heal from. As outrageous as it may be, just like Reesa Teesa, as outrageous as her situation was, she's still here.
Yes.
She made it through, and look at her now.
Hello.
Like everybody, the blogs, and everybody could still be talking. Like we're sitting here talking about her. We're not talking about her for tea. We are literally reinforcing what Reesa Teesa did in her message. She was vulnerable. She shared with the intention of helping other people. Yeah, so I think that vulnerability and transparency, when you know why, it doesn't matter what the other people receiving it do, or whether or not they receive it at all.
Girl.
Yeah. So with that, let's talk about intuition. So as we meet people, I mean, intuition is one thing. I like to call it discernment.
Yep.
Right. And it's so important. Reesa Teesa talked about how many times through her relationship with Legion, she just kind of like ignored red flags, was just like, nah, I don't want to believe this, I don't want to believe, because if what I think is true, this man is a lunatic, or this man is,
yes,
crazy.
Yes.
But then she also had to self-reflect and say, well, okay, if he's crazy, then I'm with him, then what does that make me?
Oh my gosh.
So with that being said, what are your thoughts about like discernment? Like, how do you approach your intuition when it comes to meeting new men, new friends, new, just new spaces?
My experience has been that if your body is telling you, and I usually feel a little something, a little tingle,
Amen.
Right? Like,
listen, y'all,
Angee,
it is
when I feel like, okay, your spirit is a little off, let me listen to that.
Yes.
That's when I think when you follow your intuition, that's when it ends up being good for you in the end.
It's scary.
But when you kind of go against it, like, okay, let me just give this person the benefit of the doubt, right? That's when our lift off.
Okay, so when it comes to, like new relationships, like how do you deal with second guessing yourself? You were saying that, it's like you feel something inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us about
So,
that.
right. So there have been many times where I would have like it was just a tingle in my spirit where when I meet someone, I will instantly feel their energy or instantly feel like, okay, I don't know if I should really interact with this person. But because of the person I am, I tend to give many people the benefit of the doubt. Well, maybe it's just me.
Sound like me?
Maybe it's just me. Maybe Candace, maybe you need to get your life together. Over here thinking that this person is this type of way, but then later on down the line, you start to see behaviors match to what that feeling told you how this person really is, right? Honey, actions always speak louder than words.
Yeah.
It never fails.
Absolutely.
Actions always, and I think that, and I have a problem with this too, and I always have this discussion with my friend, and she always tells me, it's not our job to really figure out what the intention was of the person that hurt you.
Wow.
But it's the impact. How did that person leave you feeling? All right?
That's it.
You could dig all day into how that person, what you think that person, the intention was. Well, they probably had a bad childhood, so maybe that's why they treat me that. But no, the way they treated you and how it left you feeling, that's not okay if it left you feeling bad.
That's right. That's right.
So to go back into what you were saying, like, okay, Reesa's, experience of second guessing herself, the importance of trusting your own intuition is so important.
Yeah.
And I think this also delves into knowing who you are.
Yeah.
You gotta know who you are, because if you don't, you will literally fall for anything, right?
I think that's what we were talking about. The next episode, I know we on episode 2, but we already thinking ahead. So episode 3, we are going to delve more into that topic that you just pinpoint, the fact of loneliness and how that can lead you into spaces and relationships. So you missed the signs because you were so busy focused on fulfilling that need.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's like a desperation. Yeah. So we're going to definitely delve into that in episode 3. But I feel you. I'm so there with you when it comes to like discernment and the feeling that you get. It's like, it's scary. I mentioned it's scary because there's part of you, like, you want to trust yourself, but that second guessing is like, okay, well, I failed myself before. Like I've actually failed at following my gut instinct in the past. So what makes this time any different? And I think that can be something, I know me personally, I have allowed, certain red flags to go. And I'm like, if I cut this person off, or if I, essentially, if I don't allow this relationship to progress,
right?
Am I missing out on something? Am I missing out?
The fear of missing out.
It's real. Very real. Yeah.
But then it's like you almost have to think about, all right, do I want to put my trust in myself or God? Like, here's the actions that have been shown to me.
Yep.
Now it's up to me to decide, do I want to carry on with this relationship?
My God. Whew. I'm going through something like that right now. I don't want to delve too much in it right now, but like literally right now, I'm experiencing something like that.
Yeah.
Because I have the opportunity to advance a certain situation further. The opportunity is there on the table, but I'm not, picking that up. I'm not taking that because I don't feel like that's what God wants for me. I feel it in my spirit, but at the same time, I'm just like, I'm acknowledging all of the feelings, all of the emotions, all of the fear. Yes. I'm acknowledging it all. Even the fear of, okay, what if he is? I'm going to talk to God. I'm going to acknowledge the discernment. The discernment is awareness. it's self-awareness. And, you know, I don't want to betray myself.
So Angee, let's talk about the 3 fears that Reesa discussed during her series, right? She talked about after becoming single, she dealt with loneliness, the rush to get married, right? And the influence of social media, because she met Legion online. Now, let's talk about the influence of social media and how it even relates to our perception of happiness, right? Because social media be social mediaing. Mediating.
It does.
So I definitely want to hear your thoughts on, do you really think social media is adding to the value of great relationships that we see?
No,
girl.
Absolutely not. If that is your source of inspiration for a relationship, that is not, like, that is the last place that you want to get any type of inspiration for what your relationship should look like. Because it's a lot of it is literally, they're giving us tools. Social media is providing us tools to curate and create the imagery that we want, you know, to put out, whether it's true, whether it's embellished, you know, whether it's just for content's sake, right? So definitely I would not recommend using social media as a source of inspiration for what your relationship should look like at all.
Wow.
Real life relationships that you actually see, people that you engage with that are married, that are long-term, that speak out about their, you know, transgressions in their marriage, the people that are, as a couple, are vulnerable, you know, together and sharing, you know, the things that they've been through. Those are the relationships that I will look to as inspiration, because I'm like, they're still together. They are acknowledging that they're not perfect. And they see they look at the bigger picture. It's not just about them anymore. It is about what they came together and created as a unit.
And I'm not gonna lie, Angee, right in the beginning of, I guess, my whole life change or my relationship status change of becoming single. I remember going onto Facebook and I seen a lot of my college classmates. They were advertising their anniversaries, which is a great thing, right?
So nice.
But it really is a nice, beautiful thing. But I ain't gonna lie, like, it had me crying. I was crying. I had to cry myself to sleep because, you know, something, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, this really could have been me, but it didn't work out. So it was just really hard to see that. And I ended up having to delete my Facebook because I'm like,
I remember you telling me.
Yeah, it was just so heavy. And I'm like, I know it's of God to be happy for your peers if they're showing that they're happy, right? You know, but it was hard to see.
You know, when you see individuals who may not prioritize the things that we prioritize, like financial stability and growth and personal development and things of like that sort, having those happy marriages or those long-term marriages. But, you know, often, and what I've actually seen with my own 2 eyes, not on social media, a lot of times there's abuse, there's a lot of toxicity. It's what do they call it? It's attachment. They are codependent. It's both partners are like codependent
on each other,
right? And so they stick. Those type of relationships that are long term, like, no. I mean, y'all might be celebrating 10 years and y'all might have had a beautiful celebration and y'all may have a beautiful family.
Right.
But if you're not being transparent and sharing with everybody what it took to either get there or what you're doing to currently make your relationship better, then like, I don't buy into that. I'm like, no, I can see right through it. I can see through it.
Oh my gosh. Can I ring my bell? So I had an aha moment.
Okay, come on with it.
Because you literally just told me how the people that are on these social media platforms flashing and not being transparent about what's really going on. It reminds me of the conversation we had earlier about, you mentioned a friend that you had that really literally told you, hey, Angee, I'm not the type to share my business left and right. I'm not going to do that. But she was the same person that would gossip about everybody else's business. So with that being said, she's not trying to share her business because she knows the type of person that she is, right?
She was projecting.
She was projecting.
Yeah. And the whole time I was actually healing. I wasn't always the type of person to share my business. I, at one point in time, thought the same way because I really felt vulnerable because, yes, I was someone who was engaging in that negativity of, oh, if you hear such and such, something about such and such, it's something to talk about.
Right.
And again, I'm not ashamed to say that was where my mind was at that time, right? Mm-hmm. But when I met her, I was in my late 20s. Mm-hmm. I was a mom. I was married. And I thought that we had a great sisterhood. I mean, she's an awesome person, overall. But I found that in our life's journey, I was further ahead in terms of healing and accepting who I was and where I came from and where I was trying to go. So those vulnerable moments when I was sharing things with her and she was seeing me starting to share on social media because I was doing like youth empowerment. If I could tell the young people what I've been through, why can't I tell an adult?
Hello.
Okay. So when I would be sharing these things, I'm thinking maybe her perspective of it was like, wow, that's really some deep, dark stuff that if it were her, maybe she wouldn't be comfortable sharing. But I'm like, it's what molded me into the woman I am. It's what molded me into who I am. So hopefully that was like a decade ago and I haven't, we haven't talked in recent years, but I'm hoping that she now values that vulnerability and understands because I thought it was a safe space to share. And when she shared that perspective, I said, ooh, I can't keep sharing my business with her because again, even though I can't control what people do with the information that I share, I valued our friendship and I knew if we stayed close and that was the way that she was going, it was not going to end well. So that's one of those relationships where I could honestly say it was like we just kind of faded.
Right. Right.
But I'll say I faded because I knew it was not a safe space for me.
And it wasn't a safe space for you because she... I guess she really showed her true colors in a sense. Like you really seen, okay, she's not going to be open with me. So
yeah, it wasn't like how we are, like how you are just as willing to share and be transparent, but it's very intentional.
Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate because it's like, that you're in a safe space because this person, also has the intention of helping other people by sharing. Right. Whereas when you're in those spaces where people are closed off to people, but yet they will take other people's information and then disseminate it and then gossip, and that's not conducive to a healthy friendship or relationship. Just, it's not conducive to a healthy space for you to be in. And I'm able to recognize that a lot. That's why I was very impressed when I met Candace because it's not every day that I encounter another woman, a Black woman, a single woman that, is just as willing and open and, to share, to actually help other people. And so I swear our conversation that first day, it could have kept going on, but I didn't want her to miss her flight.
We could have talked for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours in that car if I had not had to go and leave. So Angee, I had to write this down before I forget. So you're saying, and this is what I hear in my head after us talking about this, you can see people for who they are when you are literally open, and you can see what people are about when you are open and transparent.
Yes.
So with that person, right, or that friend that's like, you're not about to hear about my business. You're not about to hear about my marriage going down the drain. You're not about to hear about how I have a sex addiction. You're not about to hear about how I stay on Pornhub 24/7.
Come on now.
You're not about to hear about this. Yes. But when you are so closed off, right?
Yep.
How can you really see who's for you?
And the sad part about it is a lot of those people don't. They don't ever really truly get there. I mean, not all of them, because God's grace, we can persevere, we can grow, we can change. I'm a living witness of that, and can't even tell you how I got to that mindset. I just know it was the things that I experienced in life. It was the environment that I was in. When I start making different decisions and changing the people I was around, and changing what type of content I consumed, right? The more intentional I became, it became clear to me, like, okay, I didn't set out to be like that. It was just, that was what was accepted. I've seen many people later in life come out with memoirs and books, and they share, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Everybody's got a journey. Nobody's journey is the same. And I'm not here to say, like I said, my former friend, she's an awesome person.
Absolutely.
Great mom, very intelligent, professional. Yes. She was fun to hang out with. But at the core of our friendship, that safe space just wasn't there as much as I wanted it to be. And that was so critical for it to sustain. Now, my best friend, I have a friend in Pittsburgh. We've been friends for 15 years. There's a lot of things we don't have in common, but the things that we do have in common are those things that we truly value and we stand on.
I appreciate you telling me this, and I appreciate us having this conversation, because it just makes me think about so much, especially when it comes to social media, people showing off the best versions of their lives. Yeah. And we wonder why we are connected to so many people, but we are not connected to so many people. Yes. Because we're trying to show the best part of our lives, but that's not how you genuinely and truly connect with people.
There you go.
Had I not been open and vulnerable with this queen sitting next to me, we would not be here. Yeah. Had I not told her all of my flaws and all, we would not be here. Yeah. I really believe that.
Wow.
And same goes for you, because if I felt like you were very closed off and I'm not about to tell you what's going on in my life and what I've been through, I would feel that, and I probably would not want to water this relationship as much as I've had.
When I think about just the depth of the conversations that we have, and I say that Candace is like my little sister because age, right, makes me older than her, but she's very wise, very insightful, and I value her perspective so much. And we come from different backgrounds. That's why I think it's so beautiful that we're able to sit, and it's like a meeting of the minds every time we talk.
Yes.
We are learning. And when she tells me, like, oh, I appreciate when you shared that, I'm like, I didn't share that with so many people in my family, and I've never received any appreciation or acknowledgement or understanding. Never even tried to understand. And I've shared the same exact things I've shared with you. So to hear it from you, and I just thank God that it actually is serving a purpose in your life. It's just, I'm just glad that we get to share this. There's just something amazing that's coming from the connection that we have. And they just say, show up as yourself and your vibe will attract your tribe. And we are testimony to that. I'm like, I could stay on that topic for a very long time. It actually will most likely be a recurring theme throughout, because everybody deserves to have a Candace in their life. Being able to show up as yourself and be received, be understood. Candace, literally, and my daughter even attested to that today. She told Miss Candace, she's like, I approve. Because my daughter, like, when it comes to my friends or anybody that I bring into my space, like, she's at that age now where she can compare and contrast. She also has discernment, She does. Michaela, she is very in tune, with what's going on. And
she is.
I'm very thankful that melted my heart earlier when she said that. I was like, oh, I'm so happy. She feels safe. Yeah. She knows her mommy is in good hands. She knows in good company.
Right.
And that's so important. So yeah, discernment is everything. And not just in, romantic relationships, but in friendships, even in work relationships, being able to identify those people who are your people, your allies. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. It's almost like we're living and experiencing something I've never experienced before in my adult life. I mean, I probably in my whole life, because I'm grown. I've developed to a certain point, and to meet you at this stage in my life where I've been through so much, and I'm able to share with you. But you also, even though you haven't been through everything I've been through, you meet me right there, and like, I'm learning too. I'm like, oh,
we both learn.
Oh,
we both.
Where
learning.
you been?
Yes, I still am trying to figure out who she is. Who are you? Like,
there is a God. Okay,
yes.
It's so great. The bond, the connection, the gosh, I mean, like I said, the meeting of the mind, the aha moments that we arrive at. We can't just keep it to ourselves.
No,
it's not meant for us to keep it to ourselves.
No, and nor do we want to, which makes it beautiful.
Absolutely. So moving on to our next segment, we're going to talk about online dating, because boy, oh boy, you got to use some discernment on that, okay? When you are out there vulnerable, single, lonely, you know, it can definitely be a challenge. And Reesa Teesa, you know, she met Legion online. So what has been your experience, or what have you heard, or what is your thoughts about online dating?
In my experience, it's very superficial. And I can see how you're basically going strictly off of looks.
Yeah. It's one-dimensional.
Yes, and especially, I guess, with Facebook dating, yes, people can say on their profile, hey, I'm this and that and the third, or I only like to do this and that. But you really don't get to know a person, I think, genuinely and truly, unless you hang around them in person. See how this person treats other people.
Yeah.
Social media doesn't show that.
Yeah, that's true. But in Reesa Teesa's situation, like, she went to go meet him.
Right.
Like, the first impression that she got from him
Right.
was that he was willing to put money out and spend.
Right.
And that sometimes that money can definitely blind us as well. Those, you know, grand gestures, the love bombing, right? Let me tell you about a little situation I went through.
Where is my tea?
This could be a whole episode by itself. But I definitely had, so I'll say I had two situations that arise from dating online that were significant, because one, I ended up marrying one since I've been here in Atlanta. I had met him 3 months after I had moved to Georgia, met him on Match.com. And I don't want to really talk about that particular situation because there's more to it. And I think at some point in the future, I will do maybe a topic on that, what I experienced.
Right.
Because it was a form of, you know, there was some emotional abuse, harassment type situation.
Yeah.
But the most recent situation was, girl, I had met this guy, and he told me he was a pilot for Delta Airlines. Turned out a whole pilot. Turns out he was once a pilot. He absolutely had the skills to fly a Boeing, whatever.
Right.
Like, he literally was up in the sky at some point in his life. However, this man, for whatever reason, I still don't really know, but he led me on with this facade of him being a Delta pilot. Again, I don't know why, but he was very, you know, financially secure. You know, he was flying me out.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, I'm dating a pilot. Why wouldn't I get flown out? He had me under this impression that he was a pilot and that he was going to be moving to Atlanta and be based here out of Hartsville. I mean, it was too good to be true. But at the same time, it was so believable, just like how Reesa Teesa's story, like initially things were, at first it seemed believable because they were, in some ways, they were showing some receipts. They had enough receipts to keep you, you know, to reel you in.
Yes.
And so with that situation, I dated the guy, and I mean, he treated me very well. Like, I have to say, he invested in, you know, some equipment for me. At the end of our dating, I mean, it was 6 months that we dated, and this man had spent well over $25,000 on me.
$25,000.
He even paid my rent. I was wrongfully terminated before I met him. So to me, I was like, okay, God, I don't know if this is from you. Initially, I'm thinking it was. I'm like, this was like perfect timing because I met him 2 months after I lost my job. And for him to come in, it was like he was coming in like the savior, but I wasn't asking for anything. Because anybody that knows me knows I'm very a hard worker.
Oh, she gonna work for it.
I wasn't asking him for anything, but when I told him that I had lost my job, he was like, well, I respect that. You know, he's like, you didn't have to tell me that. So that let him know my character. He knew that he was in good company. I could have easily just, a lot of these women out here are looking for men like him to finance their life and stuff. And here, you know, and here I had just went through a hardship and shouldn't really have been dating. But again, I was lonely. I was bored. I needed to feel like, I felt like I deserved to be loved regardless of my situation. And it took me a good 6 months to realize that he wasn't a pilot. I'd never encountered someone who lied that much. Like, we all gonna lie at some point. We all gonna have a moment where we have to,
very true,
in life.
Yeah.
You're gonna lie. But there's some people that really have a problem. And I'd never met anyone that lied like that. And so yeah, be careful, ladies. Like, I'd be kind of like how Reesa Teesa was saying, like, at the end, she kind of felt like she didn't do her research, or she didn't look into things quickly enough. And for me, I too didn't really delve too deep because he was forthcoming with certain information. So beware, some men will try to come forward with certain personal aspects that you'd be like, oh, wow, he told me that. Kind of how, like, I told him that I was, unemployed at the time. He then came back and told me something that was private that had to do with, his past. And I didn't judge him for it, but it made me feel like, oh, well, he feels safe here.
Exactly. It just all played out perfectly. And here's the thing, too. This is what I wonder. This is a question that popped up in my mind. Do you think society makes it, especially social media, fosters liars? Like, they make it easier for people to lie?
Absolutely. Yeah, and the sad part about it is, I think one time I had heard, like when it comes to, like, the hairstylists.
Right.
You'll see on their page, they've got, like, these beautiful backdrops. They're showing pictures of, hairstyles and this and that. You think that they got a nice, sweet setup somewhere. I have been told that people have gone to hairstylists' homes and they live in, like, the projects or the dangerous neighborhood. Their house is not clean.
Yeah.
But on social media, you would never know.
Never know.
So yes, and that is scary. Like, it is, you have to vet people. I don't care. You got to vet them. Especially the ones that do the most. That do the most. Like, if somebody were to look at my Instagram, like, I all I can say is I'm just me. Like, I don't really have a plan. Like when I post content, I'm like, I have to feel compelled to post it. I have to have a reason, but I'm not just out there posting every day to build up this false image of me. It's more like, no, this is kind of like all of me in a nutshell. You're going to see a little bit of mommyhood. You're going to see a little bit of my artistry. You're going to see a little bit of my professionalism, my advocacy. It might not be somebody else, that's popping on IG might look at my page and be like, oh, she's lame. She's boring. This is, her content is... At
least this is who I am.
Absolutely.
I'm showing you who I am authentically.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Who
and
you
the right people will, the right people will appreciate that.
Hello?
But yeah, so yeah, it definitely, social media, it has made it a lot easier for people to just create a false lifestyle.
Yeah. A whole lifestyle, not an image, but a lifestyle.
Yeah, and it's dangerous. Like, I think just like with social media in general, I've said this for years, social media is like the hugest social experiment. Because when they created it, as it evolved, like as these new features and new applications come out, like who understands, who is tracking and monitoring what the potential outcomes can be and what type of provisions are in place to prevent what we just kind of like ad hocing it.
No, if you haven't seen the movie The Social Dilemma, it's a documentary. Okay. It's a documentary on Netflix.
Okay.
If you haven't seen that, definitely go check it out because they do a great job explaining how dangerous social media is.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This is gonna make me want to delete my account. That's what it sounds like.
It's just something that I think every young person 5 years old and up should watch it, just so you can be aware of, hey, this is what you're playing with. So
yeah, because there really are some people that are not, too well in the head, and I say that with grace because I am a huge mental health advocate. But when I say that aren't well, I mean they're not even acknowledging that they have an issue. It is an addiction. Some people are addicted to the reaction that people get.
Yes.
They're addicted to the likes. They're addicted to the comments, the attention.
That's what it is.
There's enough data since social media has come out. There's enough data that they could literally compile numerous cases of what that looks like. Catfish, basically.
Yeah,
like,
catfish.
You're not just catfish like aesthetically, but we have people catfishing their whole existence, and that's very dangerous. Yeah.
Why do we have to portray our lives to be this way?
I wonder if somebody's tracking that data. I'm so analytical. I want to know.
No,
who's tracking it.
If y'all tracking it,
we want to know.
Girl.
We want to know the statistics. We want to know because there's been enough evidence, there's enough examples of it, and with the repercussions of that lifestyle, what it can be. It is really chilling to think of. Ugh.
Yeah, no, you are spot on, Angee, and I just hope somebody email you with these statistics.
Please. If you are out there doing research on it, I need to know. I want to know. I don't want to take on that task.
Girl.
I love research, y'all. I do.
Girl, yes, you are a whole doctor.
I love research.
You are a whole doctor, and you've already did studies. I think you're already currently working on some studies, right?
Oh, yeah. So I do. So I started doing studies about the mixed race.
Yes.
Because for the longest time, I was like kind of denying my whole existence. I was only acknowledging really my Black side.
Right.
And then I'm Puerto Rican as well, but I didn't grow up in, Hispanic culture.
Right.
So literally life happened, because life be lifing, and made me really wake up. And this just happened when I was wrongfully terminated. A light-skinned woman that looked similar to me discriminated on me because I was mixed. And she just as bright as me. She was just as bright as me, y'all. When that happened to me, that made me realize my Black people don't see me as Black. But I'm looking at myself and I'm like, all I see is Black, But then I had to say, you know what? I need to look at myself. I need to really look at myself. And I had to examine, and I realized like I am something different. And I think my whole life, I was never really in a safe space where I could exist as that different person. It was never embraced. It was always a problem. The more I identified with my mixed identity, the more ostracized So yeah, that's a whole nother.
I'm really trying not to make this into another podcast episode, but I was just thinking about like some of your personal relationships, your immediate family members, even your relationship with your sister.
She was the very first person to let me know I was different. She told me I was adopted. She told me I was adopted, so I knew from the time I was little, I was different.
You were different.
But yeah, that's what led me to doing the research. I'm still currently researching, and as a part of that, I've definitely, through my research, I've connected with different organizations that are studying mixed, what they call critical mixed race theory, just like and it's a thing, like it's a real thing impacting lives, and I mean like lives. Like I don't know if you remember Chesley Christ. She was the Miss America or Miss USA, beautiful biracial young lady.
Yeah.
She had committed suicide like 2 or 3 years ago. Yes.
This was recent.
Yes. And I mean, people are all like, well, why would she kill herself? She was so beautiful. And it's like, you don't know her, you don't know what she had been dealing with. And I understood. Like I immediately understood. I was like, they don't see her. They don't see her. And, rest her soul. I will continue to speak her name, especially through my continued research and studies to raise awareness about the mixed race experience. But yeah. So I'm not a real doctor, y'all. Let me just clear that up.
She is in my eyes.
I'm a master of healthcare administration. I'm non-clinical, but I love the topic of health, especially in our communities, Black and brown and in between. We don't really, have access to the same quality of care.
I agree.
And so with me being mixed, there's another layer of marginalization. You know what I'm saying? We already as a colored people, as Black and brown, we're already marginalized and we already have disparities. But if you're multiracial, now you're another layer of discrimination, because now you have your Black and brown doctors who don't totally understand or see you. Yeah. They want you to pick a side or whatever the case may be. There's just so many different biases. But I say all that to say, I do love research. And if anybody can give me the statistics on social media, holla at your girl, because we going to talk about it.
Look, the email is going to be in the description box below.
Yes. we need statistics. We want to know. But yeah, so.
All right, Angie. So look, let's bring it back to Reesa. So,
yes.
My question for you. So, Reesa did mention a lot of times that she had to go against her beliefs. You remember in the beginning stages of the series, or in the beginning of her relationship, I remember her even saying, "I'm a Christian and this man is living with me."
Yeah.
Right? And we're not even married.
Yes.
You remember?
Oh, yes, I remember.
So,
girl, yes.
There were times where she did feel that she went against her beliefs. So, do you mind telling me, or let's pretty much discuss how we might overlook the signs in the name of love, like where we overlook red flags. And I mean, it could be the red flags of our own hearts. Like, hey, this ain't me. This ain't what I believe in, but I'm moving forward, right? So the signs we might overlook in the name of love. Because she made some compromises. She compromised her own beliefs.
Yeah. You know what? I think sometimes we want them to build. We want those lies to get to a point where it's like we have enough proof to say something, because we're so afraid to speak on, that first gut instinct. Yeah. Without maybe having enough evidence, or, without wanting to have them abandon us as a result of us, because that happens. You speak on something, next thing you know, you're ghosted. You're ghosted.
Oh my gosh. Okay, can I say this? Please hold your thoughts. So, I don't know, I need to look this up, but the term gaslighting, right? And you might have to help me understand it, but even when you choose to say something, because I've experienced this personally, where it's like, hey, I feel this way about this situation. No, you don't. No, you don't. You over here being a victim. Stop being a victim all the time. Very well, yes, I probably do have a victim mentality, but like I have a cousin that I love and adore. Hey, cousin, you know who you are. I'm gonna say her name, Shatar. Okay. Hey, Shatar. She mentioned to me, Candace, yes, you can definitely be a victim, but at the end of the day, how are you overcoming, right? So you can be a survivor. I think that's what she told me. I hope I'm repeating what you told me correctly, Shatara. But she was really like, how we have to look at it is, how are we overcoming this obstacle? You don't have to have this whole, I have a victim mentality, but there are many times where people might gaslight us into thinking that we are a victim.
Yeah, that's true too. But I when you first mentioned it, the first thought that came to mind was, I've experienced that, and usually that shows up in an individual who doesn't want to take accountability. So that's where the gaslighting comes in. It's to dismiss and discount your experience for the sake of them not having to be held accountable, because that's going to disrupt whatever they got going on. So yeah, whoever, for someone to call you and say, oh yeah, you're being a victim. Well, if I haven't healed from the situation, yeah, I am a victim. Yeah. And guess what? You're the victimizer. Okay. So I think, and I actually did a podcast on this in season 1. To talk about victimhood, because be careful when people dismiss and discount your experience. If someone tells you you have a victim mentality, that's a very strong declaration to make about someone. Just from hearing whatever, like, to just say that you have a victim mentality, it's like, whew, that's very subjective. who are you to make that declaration about me? Like, have you actually empathized? Have you actually like really understood what I'm going through? And as long as a person has not healed, they are technically still technically the victim. The moment that that person starts on that healing journey, they immediately stop being the victim and they're the victor. They're now healing. They're not, what happened to them is not who they are. They're not what happened to them. See, when a person is stuck in that mindset of, you know, this happened to me, this happened, they just want someone understanding. They want someone to hear them. They want someone to maybe empathize with them. And if they're not getting that, if they never got it, I don't care if it happened to somebody when they was 5, 10, if they're 50 and nobody ever heard them and empathized, well, why would they not still have a victim mentality or mindset? They are entitled to that until they can't heal if they've never been heard. That's like if somebody's being beat and they keep trying to tell people they being beat and everybody keep ignoring them or keep, you know, letting it fly over the head. Well, they're still going to be a victim because they are still experiencing that trauma, that pain, that, you know, hurt. Yes. But the moment that somebody says you don't have to go through that and here's what you can do. And once they get out of that situation, they've been heard, they've been seen. Now they can work on healing. And if they bring up that situation again, it's not going to be them bringing it up, sitting in it. They're going to be bringing it up as I overcame it. So I can talk about what I've been through without being a victim. But if you're with someone and you're trying to address something that they did to you to cause harm, and they then gaslight you and say, oh, you're being a victim, that right there is a lack of accountability. And it's absolutely, you know, gaslighting. Because you're not going to be able to heal. And we can't rely on our abusers, right? We can't rely on our abusers. So sometimes, a lot of times it has to be an outside source, like a therapist, like a trusted, you know, maybe a spiritual advisor, a family member, confidant.
Oh my gosh. And this is what I love about this platform that Angee has started. You are the founder of Pretty Purposeful Conversations, podcast, and y'all, Angee has what's called Pretty Purposeful Conversations, where I believe if you sign up or register for it, if you sign up like on an email list, she'll explain how you can actually register for it. But she allows a safe space for you to come and open up and express your heart, right? And pretty much have purposeful conversations like this. So this is actually a great opportunity for you to talk right to her one-on-one, you know, and she's so genuine with it. Like when I seen that it was completely free, I was like, this shows your heart. For the community.
I was actually certified as a facilitator of those type of crucial conversations, right? I was certified through my employer, right, to do those type of conversations within the workplace. And because I got that certification, the company that actually provided this certification is called Inclusive. I can actually have those same type of conversations out in the community. And I am a certified facilitator, so I have the skills and the tools and resources to be able to guide those conversations in a way where it's safe, where everybody feels protected and heard. And, you know, where, you know, we kind of set those conversations off on the right foot, letting everybody know that this is a safe space and that, you know, hey, you may very well get triggered. If that happens, just live in the uncomfortability. Like, just acknowledge it. Like, it's not, you know, tough conversations are necessary. So yeah, the last one I had was last month. I would love to do one. I don't know if I'm going to do them monthly or quarterly, but you know, I do want it to be available to people in the community just so they can have an outlet to talk, to learn, even if they just join just to listen. Just to listen.
That's like, I mean, it's creating a wave of positivity in the community.
And I did a podcast too about communication is something that, you know, especially within the Black community, even I just think that people who are used to not being heard are silenced. And so if you are historically, you know, silenced for so long, why would you even value communication? Why would you want to increase your communication when you're not being heard to begin with? So I believe, this is my personal perspective, I believe that Black and brown communities do not necessarily value the ability to communicate. And if you start to embark on that journey of, you know, equipping yourself with words, because words are power, just like knowledge is power.
Yes.
Words, find your words. That's important to do, because, you know, it is a form of freedom. It really is a form of freedom. But our people sometimes see that as a threat. Like, oh, you don't want to be like us. Oh, you think you better than us. Oh, you trying to. Yeah, I'm trying to actually break the cycle. I'm trying to be heard. Yes. And if I have to be the voice for, you know, that's the reason why I want to continue to, you know, increase my communication skills so that I can be a voice for the voiceless.
For the voiceless. Oh, Jesus. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, I thank God for your life, man.
I thank God for you. I think, if not, look, Candace, if not for you, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. And yeah, we do have cue cards, but a lot of what we are discussing here is just genuine, like real talk.
Yep.
Yeah. But to just kind of reel it back into the topic at hand, which was, you know, who am I dealing with? Who the F am I dealing with? Knowing who you have in your space, being able to determine, you know, who is, you know, I don't want to say worthy of being in your space, but who is going to respect and provide, you know, that safe space for you to show up authentically. Portia Williams and her husband, Simon Gabota, their recent separation definitely, again, sparked a lot of conversation around, you know, kind of like how Reesa Teesa, like, who the F did they marry? Did they really, you know, were they in it to really be with that person because they loved them, or were they doing it, you know, not Reesa, but Portia,
right? Was
it done because she wanted just the money? And it definitely can, you know, offer lessons to us about trust and authenticity. So what are your thoughts about that? Like, the women that may be out to, you know, they see the glitz, they see the glam, right?
Yes.
And they buy into it. But what are your thoughts when, you know, when things don't go as they may plan or hope for?
Yeah, I think that the glitz and the glam isn't always gold. That whole saying, right? Everything that glitters isn't gold. And that is so true, because everything that glitters, it isn't character.
Yeah.
A person could be a millionaire, a billionaire, but if their character isn't in the right place, you set up to go to hell.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean, I'm not the person to be like, oh, you're going to hell. Not literally. I'm talking about going through some hell situations, right? If a person isn't of integrity, because they get in their money a certain type of way, it's just gonna cause you to suffer. It's like you're gonna experience this type of karma because of what it is. Yeah. Now, I don't know the details with Portia and how. I kind of know a little bit with how they met. I need to have.
I can tell you from what I heard, and again, this is all through, you know, social media and sources, YouTube and whatnot. But they met each other while filming Real Housewives of Atlanta, and Simon was married, and Portia was, I think, Simon's then wife was like a friend of the show, and that's how they portrayed it on television, was that they met, Portia met Simon
while he was married.
Correct. And so, you know, his then wife was living a certain lifestyle, you know, pretty much like the soft life, right? And everybody has speculated that was what led Portia to marrying him so quickly. And they were, you know, there's allegedly they were seeing each other before the divorce was, you know, I don't even know that they had separated, but it just was not a nice situation. it's like finish one thing before you start something else.
Yes.
Like,
if that's the case, because Angee, TV is TV. In my opinion, I think, you know, people would do anything just to get views and clicks and higher ratings.
Yeah.
So it's like, will we ever really know the truth if we not in that type of, if we not even in that relationship or the kids of the people?
Right.
I just feel like, you know, they might do whatever it takes to raise the ratings. But if what happened is truly the case, that really shows that money does not always lead to happiness. Right? You know, you're getting, there is nothing, I have nothing against, you know, if you feel the need to separate from a person in your marriage, that's your business. Right. You do what makes you and your home a better place and what you have to do for yourself. But at the end of the day, like, money doesn't equal happily ever after.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I actually was married to a self-made millionaire here in Atlanta. That was the one that I was saying I met online on Match 3 months after I was here. Yes. We could do a whole podcast on that whole relationship and how many red flags I had, you know, ignored. And I didn't really care about his financial status. Yeah. You know, again, because I'm a hard worker. Right. It just was weird. Like, that whole situation, I could have did a whole series like Reesa Teesa, because the amount of gaslighting, the amount of emotional abuse, the amount of control, and I'm down here by myself with my daughter. You know, I have family, but, you know, this individual knew that I didn't have, you know, that support system. They be knowing, y'all. These men know. They will prey on women that are vulnerable, that are single moms, or that they know, or from a different state, don't have a strong support system. You have to know what you value. And for me, even though he had that money, it wasn't enough to make me happy or make me want to stay. Like, I genuinely valued, like, I wanted a healthy relationship. And this person, and most, like, that I've met, guys that have money like that, they're used to women just accepting anything. And I wasn't that woman. I didn't. And sometimes that makes them want you more. Sometimes that make them stalk you. Yeah. So you got to be careful with the online dating, y'all. And just because somebody has money, listen, just because a person has money doesn't mean that they don't struggle with depression or deal with, you know, their own demons. Some people, they overcompensate with the money. They're used to buying friends and buying relationships.
Oh my gosh.
Instead of actually cultivating and, you know, genuinely building trust in relationships. It's very superficial, and I was like, this ain't me. It's not for me.
Oh, this is deep, because we could spend a whole another 2 hours just talking about that.
So many aspects of that relationship and topics that we'll probably talk about in the future that I want to save that for a later time. Because remember, I want to share with purpose. And if I give it to y'all all now on this episode, I don't think it's really going to touch on what I really feel my takeaway from that situation was. So we will talk about that in the future. So we touched on so many things.
We did.
The main goal of this episode was to just make you guys aware that, you know, we really have to do a better job of vetting who we are dealing with. You know, if you are taking that chance and dating online, like, know what you are signing up for before you go into it, and just never be that desperate. That's what I said. The next episode we're gonna talk about that desperation, because there's a lot of women out here, great women, good quality women, and we find ourselves in a situation of desperation. And we don't even acknowledge it or understand it at first. But hindsight is 2020. You look back and be like, oh my goodness, I must have really been desperate to be loved.
Yes.
Yeah. So we definitely are going to touch on that in our next episode. But
that's going to be a heavy one.
It is. It really is. We definitely encourage you all, if there was anything during this episode that resonated with you, if there was any topic that we touched on that you want us to delve into further in a future episode, feel free to leave your feedback in the comments below. If you haven't already liked, please like, subscribe. We greatly appreciate your support. what we're doing here is we're creating a whole new brand for the Pretty Purposeful podcast. It is just, I'm excited. I mean, have no idea where this journey is going to take us, but I'm enjoying every moment.
Me too.
Every moment.
Me too.
Every moment. And we would love for you all to be on this journey with us. So we greatly appreciate your support. Candace, any thoughts that you want to leave with the audience before we sign off?
I do have one thought, and I want to thank Reesa Teesa for sharing her story.
Thank you, Reesa.
Like, I don't even have the words to express the amount of gratitude I have for her having the courage to open up, because like she said in many of her videos, this journey has not been easy for her. She's been talked about, made fun of. Oh gosh, she's really had to go through a lot through this whole experience. But girl, the good seems to outweigh the bad, because a lot of women are standing up and can relate to your story.
Yes.
So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate that. And it took, it's actually opening up more dialogue. It's helping people to be okay with sharing and not being ashamed, because that's powerful. That is definitely powerful. We look forward to bringing you more great content like this in the future. And for all of you out there, we just, hope that you guys are well and that you are living your life on purpose, with purpose, for a greater purpose. And remember, it's okay to be pretty.
And even better to be
pretty purposeful. Bye.